Here we You know what? I think red will look nice with that.
Thanks.
I don't know what's wrong with my light. It keeps on. It's like it's possessed.
I'm worried. You got a big light there.
Big light, not a big red light though. That you was just going to say.
Oh, you're recording.
Yeah, you know what it's like. But welcome back, Frank Smith. Always a pleasure. Been getting some positive feedback when we talk.
I think you get a lot of positive feedback. You're very well liked.
I don't want to be well liked. That's dangerous, don't you think?
Not really. It's nice to be liked. Everyone wants to be liked.
I'm not really bothered.
No, but deep down, it's nicer to be liked than disliked.
By the people that you love.
True, but it's still nice to be liked. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm a bit indifferent. Maybe I'm just.
But you'd rather be liked than disliked, wouldn't you?
As long as
if you had a choice.
If I had a choice, as long as the guests enjoy themselves when we speak, when we connect, that's
cool.
That's all I'm interested in.
But, you know, at the same time, everyone would prefer someone say, he's a nice guy, to he's a tosser. Not about you, about me. No?
Maybe I'm old. Maybe it's because I'm old, Frank, because I am nearly 50. So I've got a different outlook on life.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
You don't look 50.
2 years. 2 years. I'm very old. In fact, I could be your mother.
My mother is 60-odd. 62.
Theoretically, I could be your mum. Aren't you the same age as Jordan Thompson? Are you like 30 or something?
32. Jordan and I grew up together, didn't we?
What's happened to him?
He's back. He'll be back in September.
Really? Because I know that
September or possibly the first week of October.
October would be a good time.
Yeah?
My favourite month of the year. Yeah, it does.
I'll let him know.
Yeah, back at heavyweight is happening.
Yeah, heavyweight.
Trained by Don Charles now. He's gone back to where it all started.
Back to where it all started.
What do you think of that?
I think it's whatever makes him feel the most comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, you got to gel with someone, and there's a lot of good trainers out there, and there's a lot of fighters who don't gel with trainers who are very good, and everyone's an individual, and it has to make sense for you. And I think if that's what is the best thing for him, great. And like I say, everyone will have a view on it, but only those two guys will know if it makes sense.
Well, wish him all the best on his return. Looking forward to seeing him back out. He was a lovely guy, great potential. I think everything just kind of turned on its head after the Jai Pataya fight. Fighters go through stuff that us mere mortals will never really truly understand. I think every fighter deals with things differently, right?
100%. And look, people will always say about the Jai Pataya fight, I think I've known him for a long time. I've always been honest with him. Like, how can you turn down a shot at a world title when he never would have stayed at the weight long enough to get himself into a position for a mandatory, to become a mandatory?
It's always going to go up.
So, yeah, because he struggled with the weight. Okay. He's a big lump. Well, that's the reality of it. And it was ever going to be more than 6-9 months. And the reality was, he kept, no one really knew. Don't get me wrong, we knew Jai Pataya was very good. But I think over the last year, he's shown how good he is. And had he taken that chance like he did and knocked him out, a whole different story. And anything can happen in boxing. And that's the reality of it. So sometimes you've got to take chances and respect to him, because most people don't want to take chances. And people read into why he's been out of the ring. I think he just needed time. Not just because of that fight. I think he's needed time, to sort of step back and look at things, and now he's ready to go again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. When you talk about unpredictability of fights, can we speak about... First of all, I've got to apologise to Justis Huni, because he's a lot better than I actually believed he was. And I will openly admit that. We saw great boxing performance from him, and it looked as if it was going his way. He was coasting towards a points win. But that just didn't happen, did it?
No.
I mean,
what?
Sorry.
What a sport. I was just trying to forget about another. No, but look, he was winning nearly every round in that fight. I think we always believed that he was the better fighter. But having worked with Fabio, we know what his strengths are.
Yeah.
I think fighters are so quickly written off or forgotten about based on this performance or that performance. And, I think the Kevin Arena fight was a fight where a lot of people question Justis Huni. But then when you look at what Kevin Arena did against Daniel Dubois, and then where Daniel Dubois has gone on to do, you can compare all of these fights and all different routes and permutations, this, that, the other, and he beat him and he beat him. The reality is, not every night is going to be your best performance. It doesn't mean you should be written off. It doesn't mean you're finished. It doesn't mean it's the end. We all knew what Justis Huni was about. But ultimately, like Fabio Wardley said in his interview, all it takes is one punch. It takes 1 second, and that's what he did. And look, it couldn't. I love Fabio Wardley. I've always loved Fabio Wardley. He had his baby the other day. I messaged him.
Congratulations.
The other day. Yeah, congrats to Fabio. But that's boxing, and that's heavyweight boxing. That's why we love it, and that's why like Justis Huni shouldn't be written off because he got
no
beat.
way.
And
Absolutely
but that's where this sport is. Needs to evolve, and it's like. We want to see great fights. That was a great fight. 2 people stepped in the ring. He was WBO #1. He took a chance in 3.5 weeks' notice to fight Fabio Wardley. Respect to him. Rather than going right in the fight off and go, oh, he's lost, he's finished. No, he had a tremendous performance.
Tremendous, yeah.
And he's going to get more opportunities off the back of it.
When's he going to be back out? Because I'm invested in him now.
I think, in terms of timeframes, we'll look and just make sure when he's 100%, he obviously had a very quick camp there.
He did.
But, a tough finish, obviously. So probably towards the latter part of this year, you'll see him back out. But he'll want to drive himself into the biggest fights possible, because he'll believe he can win them. And he can win them. If he boxes like he boxed, look, he had a second of where he lacked concentration, he got caught.
Which is what he said, yeah.
And that's the sport we're in.
But I'm looking forward to seeing him back. It was a good fight anyway. Between the both of them, a brilliant replacement that you guys got in instead of obviously Jarrell Miller. Anthony Joshua. I know a lot. I don't usually ask about him, but I'm going to make a bit of an effort to ask about him. Obviously, we've seen him out in Ghana. Obviously not punching a person, but he looks like he's got a bit of movement back. Is he going to sit and wait for Fury, or are you going to start to put the wheels in motion for him to fight somebody else, or is it kind of like the public pressure? I don't know, other pressure, like they want to see him fight Fury, and that's it.
It's whatever he wants.
What does he want?
But that's what's ongoing now is just aligning with what, back in the gym and aligning with what his focus is. If his focus is to win another world title, we know what the route is. If his focus is to come fight Tyson Fury, I don't think the Tyson Fury fight happens this year now because of the time frames, in terms of the stadium
Fury's
show.
Allegedly retired.
Yeah. But anything can happen there, as we know. But forget that for a second. When you look at the time frames, it's very unlikely you get it up and running for a stadium, especially at the latter part of the year. So you're looking at probably next year for that. But like I say, it's whatever drives him and whatever he wants to do. The reality is, because of his position, because of his commercial power, they need him still now. All of these names. He can fight anyone he wants. He can walk back tomorrow. He can walk back in a year's time. All of these heavyweights will still need to fight Anthony Joshua because he's the biggest commercial star in the sport.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, one of your flyers that you've recently put out, it could have been this one, and it was one of somebody on Instagram asked me to shout out to the user on Instagram. He said, why is the Queensbury logo on a Matchroom flyer?
Because Baluta is fighting on this show.
And Baluta, it does belong to Queensbury.
He's a Queensbury fighter.
That nails that down, and that gets rid of that question. I do like to try and ask some questions that the subscribers ask. Dave Allen, resurgence with him. I've heard rumours that he's potentially fighting Jamie Takivi. So
there's lots of rumours about lots of different fights.
Yeah. You never like to You never give me anything, Frank.
The truth is, until something's real, it's not real.
It's a dream to be a reality.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's easier to go, let's see where it ends up. Don't get me wrong, like we sit there and we talk about hundreds of fights every day.
Okay.
So like for us, it's like, yeah, that could be a good one, that could be a good one. And there's so many rumours in the sport of boxing. And sometimes it spoils it as well. It's nice having a surprise in life.
No, because sometimes when you say something and then it doesn't happen and then the public are raging, they're still talking about it, and that's quite funny as well.
But the raging, I don't like raging.
Okay.
Too much rage.
I don't mind
Less rage.
But I've heard that you are in discussions. I've spoke to Dave. I can't glitz it up. I spoke to Dave. That's a potential fight that could happen.
That is a potential fight for sure.
So we're looking at, I'm going to then cross over to potentially the rematch between Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. We spoke about potential stadium dates, obviously due to the football fixtures. We're looking at a boxer fighter versus a matchroom fighter. Talk to us. That's a potential fight for that card, right?
Maybe, or a headline.
Or a headline, okay.
Look, what we saw with Dave Allen was someone who's got a big following. and people love Dave Allen.
they
Like,
do.
look at him in that arena. I think half of that crowd at the Johnny Fisher show, he's got so many fans because he's just loved. You know, like, they were two great guys as well, by the way.
Yes.
Johnny as well, you know, like, and I think even Johnny's fans, it's very hard to dislike Dave Allen as well.
Of course.
You know, like, the respect is there because the respect is there between the two fighters. So for us, you know, we think that's a great headline fight as well. You know, Dave Allen, when you look at him over the years and when you look at what he's done in the sport over the years and the fights he's been involved
in. The experience,
And also, he has been in those big name events for the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah, I know.
But now I think he's coming into it, like, now he loves it more than ever. And,
He said
you know,
that.
heavyweight boxing especially is unlike anything else where you talk about people's age and how many in the fight. But he could have another 3, 4, 5 years in the sport, which is mad.
Yeah.
By the way, and I've said it to him, when we originally spoke about the Johnny Fish fight, I said we shouldn't do it because I didn't feel like Dave
Okay.
should keep on boxing. But then I've said this before, I didn't think Derek Chisora should keep on boxing, but look on the run he's gone on. You know, I've always been open about it. Like, and these are all nice people that, you know, that I like working with. So it's just an opinion. But then, why? Don't listen to me because as I've shown now, I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about.
Behave.
What they've gone
You're
on to do.
well, apparently I've been told that you're literally like the brains behind everything that goes on. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
In the world.
Everything that goes on at Matchroom. Deontay Wilder.
I'm the calm one.
Are you the calm one?
Very calm.
Is it because you don't love the sport as much as Eddie? I think you mentioned that before.
I have to be completely honest.
You're quite black and white, aren't you?
Yeah, I probably don't have the passion that he has from a young age for boxing. I have a passion for. I look at it from a wider angle, maybe sometimes as well.
You've got a panoramic view, have you?
Yeah, but it's like with everything, it's a business. Like, I have to look at it from a business standpoint, and you know, it's a good balance, really, when you think about it, because he is the most passionate man you can meet about boxing. Whereas I look at things and go, like, how do we attract a younger audience? Because at the end of the day, we all want to keep building the sport.
Yep.
But times are evolving, and the way people digest things is evolving, and like, I just think we have to make this entertaining. There's so much competition across sports and in the world these days that you need to keep thinking, and rather than just go, do you know what, boxing's great, so we'll just keep doing what we do. And that's what too many people. But that's what too many people in boxing do. So for me, it's a bit more stand back and look at it
and evolve.
Yeah, just like every other sport's evolved over the years. And I always say, I actually think, you know, the years of like where it's all about winning records.
Yeah.
It should be about great fights, and that's where we've gone behind UFC in times, because their job is making great fights, right? And it doesn't matter if you lose. You lose, you're 7-3. No one cares.
But that's kind of like the standard sing-along song at the moment. We've heard His Excellency come out. We don't want this, you know, Tom and Jerry.
No one wants to watch it.
And that's kind of like what we're running with. But I remember before the Saudi involvement, I remember having that conversation with you where you guys wanted to push towards that UFC kind of model where it's the best fight and the best.
Because you're not growing the sport otherwise.
And you're hemorrhaging money. Sorry, I think about that. I think about the investments with fighters. And you said you can invest in 10 fighters, but there's maybe only one of them that will really give you a return. Yeah. So can you afford to invest in 20 fighters and then one fighter just give you... It's a business, you've said that.
It's a tough business, and as well, and I think promoters are looked at sometimes, you know, with a negative mindset, you know, and Eddie said a lot in interviews recently about the difference. Like, managers can take as much money as promoters, if not more, when we're investing millions into people's careers before you even see a return. And that's our business, obviously. It's what we do. Mm. But sometimes people view it and go, well, what have you done? And it's like, our job is to build a fighter as big as possible, right? So if a fighter gets big, we're part of that journey. I'm not saying we're 100%.
No, I hear that.
We're part of that journey. And we've invested to get them to that point, you know, from our money and our time and everything. And, you know, a manager comes in and the manager can do a great job, but they're not putting money in. They're sitting there and going, you need to pay them more money.
Right.
And I'll make more money off the back of that.
But do the managers, and this is controversial, do the managers work for the fighters, or are they in your back pocket? Because
No,
Forgive
not at all.
Okay, all right.
No, I mean...
Give me a reason, because sometimes I think, are you actually working for that fighter, or are you just like are you doing yes sir, no sir, 3 bags, 4 sir to the promotional companies?
No, but I think the key thing is how people operate, and it's like you can represent a fighter, but also still get along with us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I can do people sometimes think my way of doing business, like I'm very like calm, collected, and it's like you're not shouty, right? And
Do you need to be?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But people in like you think you have to be shout, like the best. Look at the best fighter's journey of the last 10 years, probably
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua, right?
Yeah.
Who stuck with us
Yeah.
from his professional debut all the way through, and he said, "You're the best at what you do, and I trust you." How more fighters, not just with us, don't see that and go, "Do you know what?" Because boxing's a mad business where you need people's support, you need people on your side, you need people to be planning a route for you. And how more fighters don't see and go, "Do you know what? Actually, if you put your faith into someone and go, I'm with them, whoever it is, not just us."
Yep.
Just like anything in life, there's no end to what we do.
The capabilities.
Whereas if it's just like transactional, it's like, I'll have a fight and then see you later, thanks very much, now I'm going to go over here. And the problem is in boxing, it's people chase an extra 50 grand here, an extra 25 grand here, 100 grand here, but forget about the long-term
The vision.
potential of what can I be built into.
Yeah.
So it's a very short-term mindset a lot of the time.
No, I can agree with that, and I'm not doing this for any clickbait. So if anybody like starts waffling on about that, I've got to ask, because obviously potential Dave Allen with Jamie Takivi, we've obviously got Eubank, going up against Conor again. Look, there's this cloud over at Boxer at the moment, and yes, before you ask, I have reached out to Ben Shalom to try and get him to come on the channel, because we're waiting for this promotional announcement. Right, I'm speaking hypothetically because I haven't got any facts. What happens if they stay with Sky, but it's sort of like only a set amount of dates a year? This is me speaking to you that has worked with Sky. What happens to some of the, say for example, the lower echelon of fighters, or the fighters that are not necessarily the ticket sellers, the fighters that are not necessarily going to make it to world level? Because they've got a bank of fighters, they've got some ticket sellers, they've got some good fighters, they've got the brand names, I get it. But what's going to happen? And are you guys sitting like vultures waiting for something to happen so you can start picking their fighters? I've got to ask. It's a business at the end of the day.
No, look, they obviously have fighters who... Look, if a great fighter is out of contract...
Yeah.
We will obviously always look at working with a great fighter that we think is a brilliant fighter, and they're out of contract. Happy to, I think when you look at, when you say about where do they stand, I haven't got a clue either.
I understand. And even if you did,
but I've given my opinion of I don't think you will get a renewal on the same terms because you haven't done anything that's been there's no reason to. Like no one's jumping up and down going, we must sign them again because look at what's been created. The reality is they haven't got any fighters in a position to be pay-per-view stars right now. That's the truth. Chris Eubank Jr. is with his next fight.
He's an entity on his own.
No, but he's with the set, and and it's also a partnership, so he's not really.
Yep.
So it's like, unless he owns part of that business, he's not going to let his name be used to extend the deal where actually I'm the driving force here. Okay. And that's a lot. That's the same with a lot of the fighters. Like if you look at probably next is then Ben Whittaker.
Yes.
Right. So if Ben Whittaker's sitting there going, wait, you're going to do a deal just off the back of my, and I'm not saying the other names aren't.
I hear that.
But I'm just like talking about the commercial reality of it. He's going, you're going to do a deal off the back of my name. I want to get paid.
Then the money comes into it.
So
right.
I don't know. I think I see a lot of people talking about like Sky and it's not good if they leave the sport, but it happens, right? It happened in America with HBO and Showtime. They left boxing after 30 years of dominating the sport or whatever time period they were in it for. That's what happens. People grow, businesses grow, evolve and change, and the route they're going down changes. Sky might go, do you know what? Boxing, we had a tremendous run for 35, 40 years, whatever it was, but we're going to now focus on X.
Yeah.
Or this is interesting to us, and we don't want to put the money into that anymore. And they're well within their rights to do that. And just because a broadcaster leaves doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, it's never good money coming out of a sport, but at the same time, when new money is always coming in, so DAZN have come in the market, and made a huge investment.
Yeah.
There's only so much room in the market. So, like, for DAZN, boxing is a focus.
Yeah.
For Sky, it's a small percentage
Of the other sports that they cover. Yeah, you're right.
And, you know, like I say, it's not... it's times change, don't they? Times change, and you have to move with the times.
Who would you take?
Who would I take?
Who would you take if they were contract-free out of their fighters? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying this to stir up any trouble. It's just you looking at business perspective. I think that one's got potential, that one's got potential, or whatever. Who would you take out of their fighters?
I have to be very careful because who would you take is a very dangerous, and I get in trouble.
Right. Okay. Who would you think would be a nice?
I think a lot of people. I mean, it's no secret that in times before,
you
know, Ben Whittaker was obviously a name that we pushed quite hard to get. Obviously, he got a huge offer. He went there.
Yeah.
You know, I think then when you look at like Callum Simpson's a very interesting fighter.
He's
a huge ticket seller. He's entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, and he you know, he's done something tremendous. Look, they got a good stable of fighters, obviously, but you know, we're not like others who are going to go out of our way to cause problems.
I get it.
They're going to ultimately. They've got to do what's right for them.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any more news, just like you haven't. It's been very quiet.
Yeah. I'm chasing it though.
Are you?
I am.
I'm just going to turn up at his front door.
Nah, I ain't gonna do that now.
You know, like a BBC Panorama number.
Do you remember? What was that guy that used to... Anyway, I could do that, but he's the type of person that I think that would phone the old bill on me and get me locked up for harassment.
I don't think he'd be right. No. I think he'd having spent a bit of time around him, I think he'd quite enjoy it. Go and pretend to be a bailiff.
Frank Smith. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
I've been following him around in here, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But Frank Smith...
I'd never forget you.
But I like speaking to you because you are literally black and white. There's no grey area. So I know if I want to get a straight answer, you're the guy to talk to. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Very, very straight down the line over here.
Yeah, and we're in Manchester, so I guess I can catch up with you there again. But all the best for Saturday night. I know I've not mentioned anyone on that card. No. It's because there was so much other stuff to talk about. But we'll catch up.
Look forward.
Thank you.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.